Hey guys, it's Alice, and today, if you've not read the title already, I'm going to be reviewing my freshman portfolio. This is the freshman year of my high school, not college, because I yet to go into college. But yeah, basically, I go to an art-focused high school, so I decided that I would like to combine a lot of my best works out of my freshman year to create this kind of portfolio. Let's get into it. I have a total of 11 pieces here today. I'm going to show you the pictures right here, which is why I'm slightly off camera or slightly off-centered. So let's get into some of the artwork that I did. I'm going to be going by classes just because the order of that's kind of appropriate when it comes to the order of an actual portfolio. This is of a lovely woman, and she is one of my, by far, still to this day, one of my favorite art pieces that I've ever done, specifically drawing, because it just has such great contrast, and a lot of artists don't necessarily paint or draw Black women because they say that the darkness in their skin tone doesn't provide enough of a contrast, which I highly disagree, and this drawing proves that. Her lips and her eyes and the shape of her face and the shading throughout her face is so subtle and accurate, and it's really beautifully done. I will say the hair texture looks amazing and very accurate, and the subtle shadings between the hair lighting source, great. The one thing that I will say, I'm not, like, if I had to really nitpick, the lines on the neck are a little bit too harsh in comparison to like the little bit more blended out in the top. That was just because I was lazy to fully blend it out. And also the nose is a little bit bothersome, but I wouldn't think twice about it. So moving on to the next one. This is the third one that I did. I really think that this is the best one that I shaded it the best on. The lips are just so well done, and I'm so surprised because I'm absolutely horrible at drawing lips. The nose is also really well done, and because it's a different angle of her face and like a light source, it's really easy to portray that kind of thing, but also look very interesting as it's not necessarily symmetrical. Just everything about it, the eyes, the nose, the eyebrows and the freckles make it look really realistic. The only problem with this is the hair, which is something that I tend to, when it comes to straight hair, I tend to be kind of lazy about it. So definitely portrayed this, definitely came off as a little bit lazy, could be better. And also her face is a little bit more masculine than the original photo, which I have no problem with, but yeah, it's just not as accurate as I would love it to be. Moving on, we're gonna go to my digital art. We're gonna go into the digital art section of my portfolio. First off, having a variety of mediums in your portfolio is really great, but when you're switching mediums, you also want to maintain a bit of style, because you don't want to seem like you're all over the place and you have one style per medium. You kind of want to have some coherency. That's why this, and which I think I do pretty well within my mediums. I tend to have a similar style throughout all my art pieces. This one is another series with the other one. This is a drawing that I did because I particularly really hated my digital arts class, only because my teacher had a very different sense of artistic aesthetic that I was really not fond of. And because of that, he made us do a lot of projects that I hated. No matter how much I try to make it in my style, it turned out pretty awful. And that was because we were mostly working with like edited photos. But I learned that since I got mine done pretty quick, my projects done pretty quickly as I BS my way through them, I was able to do some fun stuff, and that was just drawing randomly. And I found that one of the calming things to do was do these line art drawings, which were really simple and took about 5 minutes each. So this one's one of them. Took about 5 minutes. I like it because it's really good to differentiate the like portions of her face, and that does well when in this, so it's not really a flat face. And just the shapes kind of vibe with me, honestly. However, if I had a one critique about this, I would say that the hair gets a little bit too crowded. If I lose some of the lines, it would look definitely better. Next up, this one is the same thing. I'm not the biggest fan of this one, but it was the second best out of all of the ones that I did. The reason why I chose this one is because the hair is nice and the clothing is nice. However, I think just like the face is so off to me. Well, the eyes are kind of vague and the lips are very unproportional. I know she was looking at like a higher angle, but it just didn't translate well. However, I don't know, I like the color palette and I think it's mediocre. Moving on to the actual one of the only actual projects in the class that I genuinely enjoyed because it was only drawing. The other ones were like photoshopping weird photos into like mechanical illustrations, which I was not a big fan of, but this one we just got to do whatever we want. And I illustrated a portrait of this lady who you've probably seen on Pinterest. If you just look up portraits on Pinterest, you'll typically find the same ones in my drawings. So this one, I think that I portrayed hair really well. It's a common thing when it comes to curly hair that I portray curly hair very well. The facial structure is very is kind of unproportional when you really think about how humans are anatomically built. However, this was before I took figure drawing class in sophomore year, so I didn't really know anything about that, and I didn't really like to follow it. I just followed the reference photo. It's pretty okay. I would say the nose is a little bit too far out. The blending is pretty good for it. However, there's not as much contrast I would like in the face, and that was just because I wasn't able to blend as much as I would like to when it came to the face. That was definitely a struggle, but the contrast between the black shirt and the hair and the face does really well. So yeah, I would say this is a good one. Let's go on to the only ceramics piece that I have on here. I made a couple ceramics pieces. I'll show. We made blow pots, which were definitely a struggle, and majority of people who had never heard of them. What blow pots are is you just have like slabs, which are like pieces of, or like flat pieces of clay, and you make it into like this box shape, and then you put a little hole in it and you blow it up. Literally, that's how you get this like shape. Otherwise it's flat. And the reason why it's kind of hard to do is because it's really easy for it to collapse and ruin the entire pot. But I was successful with it. That's pretty cool. And this is Milo. His name is Milo. He has a clock face, which was originally supposed to be pointed at 420 because I'm in high school and I joke a lot, and that's funny to me. I guess. But the problem was with like the hands of 420, they go at the same direction, so it wouldn't read well to the viewer. He has ears that are kind of tilted downward, and he has really long arms and ears for hands and feet, because there's something really weird about me and ears, but I love to draw or like make ears out of clay. I don't know why, but the shape is just very satisfying to make, and you can like decorate them with jewelry because I'm a big fan of piercings. So the color palette's really nice on this. I really like him. One of his foot fell off, which I don't even really care because it kind of suits him. Let's go into my color composition class. So this was the first project that we had. It doesn't have any color on it because we were basically getting used to acrylic paints, because this was technically the very first ever acrylic painting that I've done. One of the greatest things about this one is the brush strokes are really neat, but also very messy, and I really enjoyed that. The values are great. It has enough of a contrast, but nothing's true black and nothing's true white, which is a common thing to always remember when you're painting. I will say the like pot doesn't look as much contrast as it should be, but everything's proportional, everything's in a good shape, and I kind of enjoy this one. It was a good first acrylic painting, I have to say. Pat on the back, because it was a good one. This was my first ever oil painting, and no, this was not an assigned project. My teacher, Matthew McMullen, was very kind to me in that I oftentimes finished my projects and I portrayed that I was very serious about painting, and so he graciously gave me some useful oil paints, some great quality oil paints, and some oil and everything that I needed, and brushes and like cleaner. And I'm just very grateful because I still have them. He gave them to me to keep at home. And this was my first oil painting. It was done from a photo reference of pomegranates, and I will say for my first oil painting, it's pretty good. Some things that I compliment myself on is the colors. It's very hard to mix in white with red because it ends up just turning pink and not turning up to be like a lighter shade of red, if you catch my drift. So props to me with that. Some things that I would critique on is that holding the shape, like pomegranates are kind of boxy, and so holding that shape for the pomegranates was kind of difficult because I was using a lot of linseed oil and really focusing on blending. So that was kind of difficult. And one of the main things is the pomegranates in the back don't have as much contrast to them to show that they're in the back, which kind of blends in with the other ones. And another thing that I really regret, and I could change to this day, but I don't like the color of the background. What I was trying to do is get it like a neutral earthy tone green to complement the red in the pomegranates. However, I didn't want it to look brighter than the pomegranates, so I went with this muddy green that kind of looks brown, which I really regret. I wish it would turn out a little bit more vibrant in the green area, so that's one thing. But yeah, pretty cool. And this is a painting, it's a master copy of Vincent van Gogh, and it's called Wheat Field with a Cypress Tree, I believe. Cypress Tree in a Wheat Field, something like that. We were assigned to do a master copy because master copies are another way to show off your artistic abilities, not creativity necessarily. It tells a lot about you because it can show how well you do accuracy painting wise, and how well you do imitating different techniques of brush strokes and just painting in general. It shows how well you do color matching. So I did Vincent van Gogh because I was really into Vincent van Gogh at the time. I mean, who wasn't at some point in their lives? This is very good. I will say it's one of the best master copies that I've ever done. I would say there's some things that are not accurate, such as the wheat field is a little bit more clean than Vincent van Gogh's, which is something I kind of struggled with. Also, creating different shades of yellows is really difficult because you want it to maintain its brightness, but also mellow it down to like a little bit of an earthy tone that's more natural, and it's very hard to find that balance. The trees are really well done. I really like this one. Moving on. This is the final one, and I know that I have a lot of favorites in this one just because I really enjoyed this year in my creativity process, but this is my favorite painting. This is based off of a photo reference of my mom when she pre my sister's birth. If you see a lot of my personal ideas and paintings portrayals, you'll notice that I don't really necessarily like to have one subject if it comes to a person in the painting. I like to do multiples of the same person just because it shows a really good passage of time. It shows good poses differentiation, and it also shows a little bit of movement. So yeah, I took 2 photos and combined them, and I like them. Learned that I'm not very good at drawing dogs. I'm not very good at drawing animals in general, but I love how post-impressionistic this painting is, which is one of my, it is my style to be very post-impressionistic. Kind of like Vincent van Gogh, but I like to think that I'm kind of a much more different. There's some similarities in blunt brush strokes, but definitely different shapes and vibes. Why not just include some random, not really making sense sky in there? I really love how I did this. The sky is really well done, and one of my favorite parts about this painting is how well the clouds are just effortlessly blended in there from it. So there's some splotchy areas in like the focus of that, but otherwise I think it's beautiful, and I'm willing to overlook those spots. So if you have watched my middle school portfolio that I used to get into this art school currently, you would see that I heavily improved so much. Go check it out if you haven't seen, because you'll see how much I improved by just taking some art classes and really dedicating myself to art. I'm still continuing to really improve. So there's that. Also, big thanks to my teacher once again, who I will continue to rave about for the rest of my life, to Matthew McMullen. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed seeing some of my art. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a like or subscribe if you like to. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk. I hope to see you in some future videos. So, peace out.